So, hi Bernhard.
Hi,
What
Carsten.
what do we do now?
Yeah, this one should be a shorter one, and we try to do it fast. It will be a simple deployment. So we are not explaining too much, but we will create a AVD host pool and demonstrate the deployment, right? But the details will follow in subsequent videos. Okay, so let me maybe just bring up one screenshot, which is this one. This is of your cluster as it was, half an hour ago, right? It was a vanilla install, and this is how it looks like, right? And as you could see in the middle, it says Azure Virtual Desktop prerequisites not met. What we did in the meantime was we created the resources that are required, that this one goes in green, right? And I think, we will show what we did in subsequent videos, right? It's not so
Yes.
much really, but you may, grab the screen and switch it over just to demonstrate that to the folks that this one is in green now, right? And now the deploy button goes to lights up and you can press it.
So we can only tell the people what we have done. So
Yeah.
we have downloaded an image from the Azure Marketplace. So we have an, a, a- an image with a multi-session host in it that we use for our quick deployment,
Mhm.
and we had to create a logical network.
Correct.
As you said, in later videos, we will talk in detail about all these resources. So I
Okay.
just click the deployment
Mhm.
button. I have to sign in again.
Mhm. And you could reach that dialog from two ends, right? So this was the way from the Azure Stack HCI cluster, but when you could have also created or started from Azure Virtual Desktop to get the exact same wizard, if you wish, right? And we will see that. But let's kick it off. So that's the regular host pool creation wizard.
Exactly. So I choose a resource group. You saw
Mhm.
I have multiple resource groups. We
Right.
have to name. So first I will switch the location to West Europe here.
Mhm.
Um, the host pool name, I wrote it down because we discussed our naming strategy, right?
Yeah.
And this is, of course, individual, has to fit your organization, your size, and what you want to do. But
Mhm.
Bernard and I said we name our host pool HP for host pool. Then we have our location. We will have two clusters. So we have two
Mhm.
locations, and we should have a differentiation between the host pools. And then we will deploy a host pool for desktops, not for
Mhm.
applications, for desktops.
Yeah.
So then here you see what we do. We do desktops, not remote
Mhm.
apps,
Yeah.
and host pool type will be pooled. We will talk
Mhm.
about this stuff that he asks here later. So breadth first, I choose 16
Mhm.
users per node because this was our calculation example.
16 users per session host. Okay,
Session host,
per
exactly.
desktop. Okay. Yep.
So, and now it asks us on the next screen, do you want to create virtual machines? Of course, that's
Yep.
we want to create some machines. So
Mhm.
I click yes here, and now resource
Mhm.
group name prefix.
Mhm.
So for the name prefix, you have to be very short. There are only 11 characters allowed,
Right.
and it will add also a numbering on the end. And Bernard
Yep.
explained me because I was saying, why only 11 characters? Bernard, why is that?
Yeah, because the computer name, the NetBIOS name, is derived from this one, and we
Yeah.
also do have the numbering. So if we would create 10 desktops, we need to have the space for number 10.
Yeah.
So this is just a prefix. Okay, so now you have Azure Stack, Azure Virtual Machine, or an Azure Stack, or should it be placed on Azure Stack HCI?
Exactly.
But Carsten is currently, selecting the virtual machine location to West Europe. That doesn't mean that, that the cluster is really physically in West Europe, right? Well, it is, but it is not West Europe as Azure Data Center in Amsterdam. It is, your location. However, the virtual machine artifact is in Amsterdam. So there is a sort of digital clone or digital representative of the virtual machine that is on your HCI stack.
This is a little bit of a bug, right? So if we don't change it, our resources would be in, I think, in East US, but the machines are not. So I switch it here to West Europe, and then we go to Azure Stack HCI virtual machines, because we don't want to create the machines in Azure. We could do that, but we want to create them on the cluster that is here in Hallenberg. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So we check that, and now he wants to have a custom location, and we will talk about a custom location later. But you see here, I have in the moment 2, and this is the custom location of our cluster we are deploying to. It's called, this is a short form of Hallenberg, and that's the cluster name. So now he knows the cluster where the virtual machine should be created, and we can select an image. And we told you we have already downloaded an image, because that takes half an hour approximately with my internet connection. If you have a faster one, it's shorter. If you have a slower one, it's maybe taking 1 hour or even more. So we named it appropriately, and we choose that. Now he wants to know which security type. We only have standard in the moment. There's also something with trusted, but we don't have that. And he asked us, how many VMs do we want to deploy? And in our example, there were 10, right? For the 160 users, 10 machines with 16 users each, so 10. We can specify how many virtual processors each machine should have. We choose 8. And I think it was 16 gigabytes in the example. The, how was it called? The maximum node or so, or where a lot of users.
The heavy.
It's not so heavy in my opinion, but that's discussable, right?
Neither.
So here we have to choose a network, because these machines have to communicate with Active Directory, with Azure, and so on. And we prepared that in advance. We will talk about that in another video. Then the VMs should be joined to an Active Directory.
They need to be joined.
We need a user that can do that, right? So we choose one of those users, admin1, and I have to give the password. Okay. I also specify the domain separately. And you see here, the AD domain has 2 names. It's powercourse.local, and we have also powercourse.net, because local you can't use in the internet. And I specified an organizational unit. We will talk about that later. On this organizational unit, we can do group policies and Active Directories and so on. That's helpful later. And we also need a local administrator, and we are not allowed to use administrators. So you have to have another name for your local administrator. And I give a.
Yeah, that's an Azure speciality, if you wish, right? So administrator is a common attack vector. That's why we don't usually allow that in Azure, right? Or for Azure virtual machines. And we tend to follow this concept also for VMs that are on-prem.
So on the next part of the wizard, we can register desktop app group, and we want to do that. So let's get rid of this one. And for this, we create one. We haven't done this. So here is our name.
Okay.
So this is for workspace. Then we have our custom location name. We have a site A, and this is the first one in that site. And this naming will be much clearer if we go deeper into the sessions. Yeah, so we now just skip it and take it as it is. So
hopefully, but the users, we will present maybe later the user a much more friendly name than this one, right? This is for the Azure resource, but you can change that with visualization for the user. Okay.
Then we don't enable diagnostic settings because I don't have a log analytics workspace yet.
Let's do that later, right? In a later video as well.
So, and tagging, we will talk about tagging maybe in a later video. In the moment, we don't use any tags here. We want to do a quick installation, not So
I will talk
now,
about tags if you fire it off, right?
yeah,
As we do have some time. Okay. So see here, I mean, you pressed the create button, but there was the download a template for automation thing, right?
yes,
So as with any other Azure resource, there is the Azure Resource Manager behind of this, right? So this is only a remote control of REST services call. And our Azure management pane, the Azure Resource Manager, is able to talk to either the portal or to PowerShell or other automation or command line tools that you could use to automate the whole stuff. And that could help you to to do that fully automated, if you will. Okay,
so if
so
I
let
would
me,
deploy
yeah,
workspaces every day, I would have an ARM
yeah,
template and modify it,
right.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah, or if you may need to test things and you have a DevOps pipeline where you spin up a host pool, bring your applications in, test them, and then delete them one more time. That could be fully automated. But
Yeah.
tags, right? As you have seen in the wizard, that we are somehow limited sometimes in the number of characters that we can enter, especially for the computer names, something like that, for example, right? So it is sometimes missing some really valuable information, especially if you need to troubleshoot things. And that can be dealt with tags, right? So tags are key value pairs. You can do up your own, right? So I could, bring up, maybe I want to know the version of the template that I was using, or maybe you want to tag these desktops with a cost center ID for billing purposes later on, for example, or you may want to know what is inside there, or what is the purpose, or what is the security status, or whatever, right? I mean, then you can work with tags.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Regarding this, you see that there are multiple things done here, right? And as this is quite a beefy wizard, which I would say, right? It creates quite some resources. It creates the host pool, the application groups, and then it launches up other stuff. So this is like a master child deployment template that we have here, right? And some things can run in parallel, some things can need to run sequentially, but most of the time you're spending in the add VM linked template kind of deployment here, right? So if you would click on the add VM linked template hyperlink, yes, you should see that there will be some things, right? And here is the parallelism that I was talking about, right? So the things in green are already done. The other ones in blue, right, are running at the moment in parallel. And now it is time for a coffee break, I would say, right? Because this can take some time, because some virtual machines need to be created on your cluster. That means you have selected one image that needs to be copied to 10 locations, right?
Mm-hmm.
For 10 virtual machines. And then these 10 virtual machines need to be switched on. Personalization occurs. The OSs boots up. They will get IP addresses. And then other things happen, like, for example, agents will be installed, domain join will be done. But that's something that will happen throughout this video.
Yeah, what would you think if we pause the video here and
Mhm,
maybe we decided to do 10 VMs? So
mhm.
the image is 127 gigabytes. That alone is copying 1.2 terabytes. So we could pause the video here, or we show the results in the next one.
Yeah, I will probably, cut or fast forward this video in editing. So, be aware that there is maybe a certain switch in screens.
Okay. So it seems to have finished. I
Yes.
like your deployment is complete. I love it.
So yes. So if you would expand it, let's just expand it for a second, right?
You mean the
So there are
deployment details?
lots of stuff has happened. So the last thing was the Azure monitoring agent, which was installed. Then the join domain was done
Domain
before.
join work.
And
Custom
there
script
was a,
extensions.
yes, and the custom script extension step is the one that is actually performing the onboarding to the host pool. So if you would go to your Azure Virtual Desktop Management view, right? So you can type in the search window on top, or you go, do it like this. You go to your host pool. Yeah.
Yes,
Let's
I go to my host pool, the
no,
DAG.
no, that was the DAG. Go to the host pool
That was the
first,
wrong
please.
one. This one.
Yeah, this is the number
Yes.
that I wanted to see, right? So 10
Yes.
machines there, all of them are ready to connect. Okay, now you can go back to your application group because we want to, sort of show.
Whoops, wait. That's a bit much here. So the application group is this one, right?
Yes, this is the desktop application group.
Application group, yeah.
Yeah.
It was automatically created. Here's one application.
All right.
And I think I should assign a user, right? Or
correct. That's what you need to do, right?
So there is none.
Mhm.
Let's pick one. Let's say, for example, we have a Bernhard Frank here, and
Yep.
I just would add myself too. We do select.
Right. Looks good. So
Yeah, wait,
now,
it's not here yet.
yeah, that should be
Now we have
relatively fast.
it.
Yeah. Okay, so now if you could switch to my screen,
We
then
switch to your screen, right?
yeah.
Here we are.
And as you could see, I was logging on as Bernhard Frank before. However, that was before you assigned me permission. So let's do a refresh here, right? So just do a refresh and see if I do have something available now. There it is, right? So that's a little bit ugly name, but we can change that later on, right? And this is the session desktop. So let me just change the settings so that I, don't do it on all of my displays, right? I'm just selecting this one that should be viewable to you. And hopefully I have my password still in the clipboard. Let's see.
You have.
Yeah, and here you go. So this is what we wanted to see, right? I mean, we are geographically how far apart? 500?
300 kilometers over the
Right.
air. So
Right.
with car, maybe 400, 450.
Right. So that would be, like my connection is a little bit different, right? We are doing UDP, which is good for RDP transmission, right? But however, you could see it from the milliseconds. We are going via the Azure backplane, and this is the distance or the latency that would be added to it. But I am on your host, which is kind of nice, to be honest, right? As we could see here, that's the remote computer at the bottom. Yeah, that looks good. So mission accomplished. And in the subsequent videos, we are talking a little bit about activation and other stuff of these desktops and how to get there and how to modify them, right?
So now we get to the beefy, gritty stuff. Okay. See you on the next one.